I wanted to touch on Rich Cronin. I know you worked with them on the Cab Driver song.
Yo, taxi! Yo, where to, dog?
And Rich Cronin, he was such a dope songwriter. I thought like he one of my favorite songwriters. Still to this day, like he got great records, even like a lot of his solo stuff. Tell us about Rich.
Me personally, I didn't really know Rich that much while he was in the middle of the whole LFO thing. But kind of after the Summer Girls and all that stuff, kind of he would be in the studio and he had kind of his own band, and he'd be in there rehearsing, and obviously we're all in the studio interacting and meeting each other, and he actually is a hip hop head, so he raps, like he freestyles and all of that. So what would happen is like we'd be in the studio, and Rich would just be like, hey, put on a beat, the car, let's freestyle. And I'd be like, you want to freestyle? All right, cool. So he would just start rapping and we would just start freestyling. And then while he rehearsed with his band, they would play a beat. He'd be like, let's just freestyle. And the band would just be, and we would just be freestyling with each other.
Rich Cronin. So you said y'all just used to be in there jamming and freestyling and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Rich a hip hop head, man. Not just amazing songwriter, but he could rap, you know what I'm saying? Like, so he used to just be in freestyle mode, like with the band or whatever beat was on. And that's kind of how me and him really got tight and clicked up, because we would just always be in there freestyling. Like every time we see each other, it was like, "Oh, beat on, let's freestyle." So that's kind of how me and him became cool. And again, just being in the studio together, and then of course with all the other Natural, C Note, all them guys being in there. That's really how the Cab Driver song kind of came about, man. Rich had the concept, and he was like, I think the car did the beat. Rich really wrote the whole song. I think the whole song was actually him originally, and what he did was he split it in half and gave half the verse to Natural, and then but he was like, yo, like it'd be dope like to have a rap verse right here, and so Dakar was like, come in here, put something down, and that's kind of how the record came about, man.
I gotta turn around, I can't let you leave her behind. Love her, man, she'll always be on your mind. Always. You gon' think about her day and night, night and day. So listen, I'ma tell you the right things to say. Just tell her you love her, show that you care. Make sure you hold her close, play with her hair. Like that night before bed, make love and give her a kiss. Run away now, trust me, you will be missed. Man, I still don't know.
Natural, that was like one of the newer boy bands at the time that Lou was working on.
Yeah, it was one of Lou's like newer boy bands. They actually did pretty well in Europe, like in the Germany, because usually that's where he would take them first, go to Europe, kind of Germany and all those little, the countries over there. They were actually pretty big over there at the time. But that was like his next project.
And that record, like you're in the music video. Like I said, I like Rich, and yeah, he definitely was a rapper too. He could get down. Like I liked a lot of his lyrics and stuff like that. You could tell that he had a lot of hip hop influence in his writing and choice of beat selection that he would use and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of R&B influence. Like I was gonna ask you, like what do you feel like LFO was? Were they like a boy band, or were they like a pop rap slash R&B group? Or
I think they were like the where NSYNC and Backstreet was probably more of a singing group, like a pop R&B kind of singing group. I think LFO was a little bit more hip hop influenced. Like I wouldn't necessarily say they were like the NSYNC type vibe where it was R&B-ish. Them guys from Boston, man, like, and I know a lot of them, like Brizz, who was one of the original members of LFO, man. Like, he was around Transcon. He ended up, doing a lot of stuff for us at the time too. Like, I've been around a lot of them, and a lot of urban in them, growing up in the streets of Boston, man. So, definitely, and Dakar is from Boston, which is where they kind of all know each other. So,
okay.
Definitely more urban influence. And, even in like, when in the LFO records, man, I mean, you had your singers, but when you hear Rich he can sing, but he really like rapping almost a lot of these songs.
That's
You can
right.
kind of hear it just kind of with a melody, and
He had a flow.
yeah,
Rest in peace to Rich.
yeah, man,
We just lost Devin too. Rest in peace to Devin and
yep,
Briz. One of the original
yep,
members. Briz.
yeah, man.
And it's crazy that you said that. So When Briz left the group and wasn't in the LFO, he was still around Transcon.
It was actually a point where, you know, he actually was road managing. He ended up being like, he ended up running a division of the label. Like I don't remember if it was like the hip hop division or the urban, or you know, he kind of took on the C Note project. You know, Lou ended up putting him in that position. You know, Briz was on the road with us a few times, like road
Mm,
manager with us.
mm.
He kind of did everything. You know,
Okay.
but yeah, Briz, you know, again, man, like all good guys, man. Like, you know, guys that have been around a long time and, you know, definitely taught me a lot, you know, for someone that was younger, brand new in the industry. Like, you know, I done heard some crazy stories about LFO and them.
Oh, and the boys were out there touring Germany and all that stuff for
Yeah, man,
years,
like
you
some
know. So
crazy. They took us under the wing and you know, and showed us the way.
you don't get to hear too many stories about Briz, or you don't get to hear too much about Briz. And if you don't know who we talking about, he's one of the original members of LFO.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear that uh after he left the group and stuff like that, like he was still a part of the label and still a part of, you know, help
Yep.
transitioning and grooming these new acts, and you know, like you said, road managing and stuff like that. So that's some pretty cool history. And what's crazy is a couple years back we were gonna do something, like we got in contact over Facebook and stuff like that, and we were gonna do I wasn't really doing no podcast at the time. I was just doing like interviews in the studio, just recording like vocal interviews and stuff like that. And he was down to do it. And I don't know what happened, man. I guess I just got busy and I never got around to doing it. And it was, you know, it's unfortunate, you know, that I didn't get to, you know, but it's cool that
Yep.
you're able to share, you know, some stories and touch on it. Uh,
Yeah, for sure, man.
you know, Brad, he's still out there doing his thing, you know, on the pop tour with
Yep.
Old Town and Chris from NSYNC and stuff like that. What'd be tight
Yep.
is to get y'all guys involved in that and get y'all guys on that pop tour. Cause I just seen that they had C Note on
Yep.
there
Yep.
going do I think New York and stuff like that. So
Yep.
it'd be cool
Yeah.
to see all y'all guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we was actually I was just talking to David from C Note today, and I said, you know, I guess they're coming to Orlando in January, and I said, oh man, that's dope, man. I gotta come out to check y'all out, man. So yeah, you never know, man. I mean, you know, again, man, small circle, all of us been, you know, was around a lot of the same stuff that was going on at the time and grinding together. So you know, even Chris Kirkpatrick, man, that's another good friend of mine, man. You know, showed us a lot of love. We shot one of our videos at his crib. You know, when he used to throw legendary parties at his house here in Orlando, like Super Bowl parties and Halloween parties that were legendary. Um, but you know, just a small circle of guys, man, that been around, especially from here in Orlando.
It'd be cool to see, you know, you and Smiles or even just yourself on that, because you know that's a cool. It'd be a cool little dynamic, you know, to
Yeah,
add hip hop, you know, together with it.